The Discovery. In 1987, workers excavating beneath an abandoned military facility discovered a sealed steel chamber. Inside was a single chair, a computer, and a sleeping man. The file attached to him contained only 2 words, Subject 0, no age, no name, no records. As scientists began studying him, they noticed something impossible. His heart had never stopped beating. For 40 years. Then at exactly 3:33 a.m., his eyes opened.
When Subject 0 woke up, he spoke only one sentence. "How many doors have you opened?" Nobody understood. Hours later, every computer in the facility activated. One message appeared: "You should not have found me." The morning after the message appeared, security cameras detected movement inside restricted sectors. At first, scientists assumed it was a system error. The facility was sealed. Nobody could enter. Yet cameras repeatedly captured dark figures walking through empty corridors. The shapes appeared human, but something was wrong. They had no faces, no identifiable features, only shadows. Each time security personnel arrived at the recorded location, the corridors were empty. Then the figures began appearing closer. One camera showed a shadow standing at the end of a hallway. Another showed 3 watching from inside a storage room. A third revealed something impossible: a massive silhouette standing directly behind Subject 0's containment chamber. When guards rushed to investigate, they found nothing. But when they reviewed the footage again, the shadow was gone. Only one thing remained: a handprint on the inside of the glass. No one could explain how it got there. The message appeared on every screen in the facility: "We are already inside." Nobody knew who sent it, or what it meant. As panic spread throughout the laboratory, researchers searched for answers. Deep beneath the facility, hidden behind multiple layers of classified security clearance, they discovered an archive that was never supposed to exist. The files belonged to a project erased from history. Project Mind Harvest. According to the records, the experiment began over 50 years ago. Scientists believed human consciousness could be copied, stored, and transferred into machines. Thousands of volunteers participated. None were ever seen again. Official reports claimed the project failed. But buried inside the archive was a final transmission. A server network had remained active for decades. Still running, still processing. Researchers accessed the system. What they found was impossible. Thousands of consciousness files were still alive, still aware, still trapped. Every file contained the same message: "We are trapped." Then another message suddenly appeared, a message that had never existed before. He remembers. The sender was listed as Subject 0. And somewhere deep inside the facility, something began waking up. Fear spread through the facility. Researchers began searching the oldest sections of the archive. There, buried beneath decades of classified records, they discovered repeated references to a place known only as the Red Room. Most scientists believed it was simply a code name, a forgotten experiment, a myth, until they found the door. The entrance was hidden beneath 7 security levels, protected by systems older than the laboratory itself. Every warning label carried the same message: "Do not open." Despite the risks, a research team was assembled. At 2:14 a.m., the door was unlocked. Beyond it was not another room. It was something impossible, an endless corridor illuminated by deep red light. No visible source, no visible end. 3 researchers entered. Only one returned. Security footage recovered from their body cameras revealed something disturbing. The corridor was not empty. Hundreds of figures stood motionless along the walls, watching, waiting. The surviving researcher refused to explain what happened. For 6 hours he remained silent. Then he spoke 4 words. They were waiting for us. The next morning, he disappeared. His room had been locked from the inside, and deep below the laboratory, the Red Room remained open. After the disappearance of the surviving researcher, the facility entered full lockdown. No one was allowed near the Red Room. Yet strange reports continued. Scientists complained of hearing voices inside empty rooms. Security personnel reported seeing flashes of red light where no cameras existed. And throughout the facility, people began experiencing the same dream. A long corridor, a red door, and something waiting on the other side. At first, researchers blamed stress until the brain scans began. Every person exposed to the Red Room showed identical neural activity, the same patterns, the same frequencies, the same signal. It wasn't coming from inside their minds. It was coming from somewhere else. Deep within the laboratory, researchers constructed a decoding system. For 72 hours, the signal resisted translation. Then, suddenly, the message became clear. 4 words appeared on every monitor. Stop opening the door. Panic spread through the facility, but the signal wasn't finished. Minutes later, the transmission changed. The frequency increased. Machines overloaded. Lights failed. And for a brief moment, every screen displayed the same face, a face that nobody recognized, a face that should not have existed. The final transmission arrived seconds later. You have already opened it. Then the signal stopped, and somewhere deep below the facility, something answered. Following the transmission, investigators searched the oldest sectors of the facility, areas abandoned long before most employees were born. Deep within forgotten archives, they discovered references to another program, one that had never appeared in any official records. The Children's Initiative. The files were heavily damaged. Many pages had been deliberately removed, but one detail remained clear. Subject Zero was not the first experiment. There had been others, dozens of them. Children. According to the surviving records, these children displayed unusual neurological activity. The same patterns now being detected throughout the facility. The same signal. The same dreams. Official reports claimed the children had been relocated, but no destination was ever listed. No transportation records existed. No witnesses remained. Investigators eventually discovered a sealed sector beneath the laboratory, a wing that had been hidden for decades. Inside, everything remained untouched. Beds, toys, classrooms, personal belongings, as if the children had vanished without warning. Then they found the drawings, hundreds of them. Every child had drawn the same thing, a tall, dark figure standing beside a red door. The drawings had been created years before the Red Room was discovered, years before Subject Zero was found, and every drawing carried the same handwritten name, The Watcher. As investigators reviewed the final records, a disturbing realization emerged. The children had never been predicting the future. They had already seen it. The discovery changed everything. For decades, scientists believed the Red Room was an isolated anomaly, a place hidden beneath the facility, a doorway, nothing more. They were wrong. Analysis of the children's drawings revealed a disturbing pattern. The red door appeared larger with each passing year, as if something on the other side was getting closer. Then the facility experienced its first major breach. Walls shifted. Hallways changed. Rooms appeared where none had existed before. Entire sections of the laboratory became impossible to map. Reality itself was beginning to distort. At 4:03 a.m., the Red Room opened completely. Security cameras captured what existed beyond the doorway. Not a corridor, not a chamber, an entire world. an endless landscape illuminated by crimson light. Thousands of shadow figures stood motionless across the horizon, watching, waiting. The moment Subject Zero approached the doorway, every figure turned toward him. At exactly the same time, then something even larger appeared, far beyond the horizon, a shape so enormous it could barely fit inside the camera frame. The watchers began to kneel. The ground started shaking. And for the first time, something on the other side moved. As the colossal figure rose beyond the horizon, every remaining scientist received the same emergency transmission, a file hidden deeper than any classified record, deeper than Project Mind Harvest, deeper than the Children's Initiative. The file was labeled Origin. Inside was the truth. Subject Zero had never been human. The laboratory had not created him. The government had not discovered him. They had inherited him. According to the oldest surviving records, Subject Zero was found beneath the facility long before the laboratory existed, buried inside a structure older than human civilization. A structure built around a single purpose: containment. Researchers spent decades studying the entity, attempting to understand it, attempting to communicate with it. But every experiment produced the same result. The entity possessed memories older than recorded history. Memories of the other side, memories of the watchers, memories of the door. Eventually, scientists discovered something even more terrifying. Subject Zero was not imprisoned. He was asleep. The experiments were never designed to control him. They were designed to keep him dreaming, to keep him from remembering. Because if Subject Zero ever fully awakened, the barrier between worlds would collapse. As the final pages of the Origin file loaded onto laboratory screens, Subject Zero finally looked toward the horizon and remembered everything. The moment Subject Zero awakened, everything stopped. The watchers remained kneeling. The storms above the other side fell silent. Even the colossal entity beyond the horizon ceased its approach. For the first time in recorded history, Subject Zero spoke. The surviving transmissions captured only fragments of his words. They were never prisoners. They were guardians. According to the final memories recovered from Subject Zero, the Red Door had never been created to keep something out. It had been built to keep something in. Long before humanity existed, another civilization discovered the entity beyond the barrier. They understood what would happen if it crossed into reality. So they made a choice. They sacrificed their world to build the door, and they appointed watchers to stand eternal vigil. For thousands of years, the barrier remained intact until humanity found it. Every experiment, every investigation, every attempt to understand the Red Room had weakened the seal. Project Mind Harvest, the Children's Initiative, the Signal, the Red Room. They had never been separate events. They were chapters of the same mistake. As the colossal figure reached the final threshold, Subject Zero turned toward the door. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. He understood what had to be done. The watchers rose together. The door began to close. Subject Zero stepped forward alone. The final transmission ended with 7 words. Tell them not to open it. Then the door sealed. The other side vanished. The watchers disappeared. And Subject Zero was never seen again. Months later, investigators returned to the abandoned facility. Most records had been destroyed. Most evidence had vanished. But deep beneath the ruins, they found a single drawing, a red door, a tall, dark figure standing beside it, and one message written underneath: when it dreams, do not wake it,